first ask that each and every single one of us, including if we're in the public gallery, imagine the following scenario. You're the one person who can save others, but only if you pay attention to the people who call out to you for help. I acknowledge, appreciate, and more importantly understand that due to the many demands of certain your constituents, many of you may not be fully aware of certain subjects. Subjects such as LTNs, also known as low traffic neighbourhoods and 15-minute cities. Respectfully, there is no excuse for saying I didn't know, not when we have been given evidence, information and factual data to support what we've been told. With the above in mind, I would like to address the Council's claim that we're in a climate emergency. But before I do, can I first state that I'm not saying there isn't a climate emergency. What I am saying is to date there is nothing to substantiate the claim. I've taken the following piece from the BBC website dated 1st of May 2019. The UK Parliament declares a climate change emergency. The declaration of an emergency was one of the key demands put to the government by environmental activist group Extinction Rebellion in a series of protests over recent weeks. Dozens of towns and cities across the UK have already declared a climate emergency. There is no single definition of what that means, but many local areas say they want to be carbon neutral by 2030. Over the past 3 months, I myself, I have put in 3 FOIs, Freedom of Information Requests to Suffolk County Council, Ipswich Borough Council and the GLA, Greater London Authority. What I've received from all 3 have shown me they have no evidential data or anything to back up the alleged climate emergency. In fact, I've been informed by an environmental strategy manager during a meeting he and I had that the claim that the UK is in a climate emergency crisis stems from the Extinction Rebellion protest groups' demand for the UK's Parliament to declare a climate emergency, even though there is no evidence to support their claim. To repeat what we've been told to say doesn't mean anything unless we have data to support it. So can I please ask that if you are to address this after I finish speaking, that you also have evidential data to substantiate and support your responses. Can I just remind the councillors that without this alleged climate emergency, everything else related to it changes. Reference LTNs, 15-minute cities and electric vehicles. Of course, we all have a responsibility to ensuring that future generations benefit from us doing our bit to leave in a world in a good place for them to thrive. I'm sure many of you have children and grandchildren. Please can I ask you to find it in yourselves to imagine a world far away from the free one you yourselves grew up and thrived in. Surely you owe it to your children and grandchildren to at least look into what you're going to hear from members of the public this evening. I'll leave you with my closing thoughts. If what you have heard from me this evening turns out to be correct, will you be able to look into your grandchildren's eyes and tell them that you tried your absolute best to ensuring this world is going to be a place where they too will thrive and reach their full potential? Or will they live to suffer the consequences of you ignoring the many warnings from your constituents? Can you live in the knowledge that whilst in a position of change, that you found them? I am a youth mentor of 30 years. My passion is for the next generation. And that is why I'm here tonight. Not for myself, I'm 66 years of age, I've lived a life. Please look into what's being told from above. Because it's a great concern, and I don't want to leave this world in the worst place for the young people who are going to leave behind. Thank you for listening.
Thank you, Mr. Charles, and I was indulgent on you there and let you speak for longer than 3 minutes, but I thought it was interesting. I didn't have any forward notice of your questions, so I can't provide you with the evidence you asked for. But I can confirm that this council has declared a climate emergency, and we are working as a council to be carbon neutral by 2030. And it was actually under the previous administration that climate emergency was declared. This current administration is very happy to carry on supporting that, and we are doing all we can to ensure that our planet is suitable for our children and grandchildren to live in going forward. So, but I thank you very much for your question.
Thank you.
Can I ask now Aaron Leeds, please? Welcome, Aaron. Hi.
I wanted to start by saying how we as a group were left feeling from our last meeting with the council. We felt as if we weren't being taken seriously. We were told to shut up, which I found very rude considering you're working on behalf of us, the people. We will put you in the positions you hold now. I can sense from the reactions in the room we weren't being listened to on the important topics that were brought to your attention, such as the 5G installation and the harms and effects of radiation on the human body, the sexualisation of children in the education system, and the effects the last 3 years has had on the mental well-being of good people. From the harms and effects the COVID vaccine has had on the lives of those that were misled and pushed into taking it, the loss of loved ones who sadly lost their lives from major complications of the COVID vaccination, the engineered cost of living crisis, massive migration of young fighting fit men being given a place of warmth, clothed and fed at the expense of the taxpayer, whilst our own would go without and left homeless, collapse of small businesses and the huge rise in suicides, to name but a few that's caused alarm, distress and concern within the local community and the residents who have had to suffer at the hands of a corrupt system and a government who are meant to serve and protect the best interests of the people. Sadly, they have failed miserably. I feel the only way we can move forward and for the members of the council to hear our voices and acknowledge us is to work together and learn from each other, and for the members of the West Suffolk Council to take away the information we are providing, research clearly and to come to your own conclusions so that any meeting in the future we can discuss those same topics and not feel as if we are continuously repeating ourselves. What's coming could potentially affect the likes of us and yourselves. My question today is, can the members of the council provide evidence-based analysis and data to suggest we may be facing a climate crisis? And does the council hold evidence-based data also that could provide useful information on the detrimental effects a climate emergency or a possible lockdown could have on our local community, our town, our children's education and small businesses? As for the last 3 years, we have learned from the COVID pandemic and unnecessary lockdowns the effects it has had on the lives of so many who are left to suffer. My second question to the council is, can you provide data-based evidence on the effects that net zero emissions agenda 2030 would play on the lives of those like myself who rely solely upon our vehicles to travel to and from work? What effect less cars on the road would have on small businesses who rely heavily upon local tourism to generate business income, increasing the flow of money throughout our local economy and create additional jobs? And lastly, can the council justify us losing our freedom to move and travel for work and pleasure whilst the 1% higher class elites who dictate to us on lowering emissions continue to use their private jets to travel around the world while choosing more emissions? Are they willing to give up their transport for work and play also? What's good for the goose is good for the gander, as the old saying goes. No man dictates to me or my family. Thank you.
Thanks very much. And I hope that the fact that you're here speaking is evidence that we are willing to listen and actually very keen to listen to the opinions of residents of the area. You asked three specific questions. One was about the effects of the pandemic lockdown. I believe there is currently an inquiry taking place in Westminster into the effects and the mistakes that were made. Obviously as a council we don't have the resources to do that research ourselves, but that would be very interesting to see the results of that. And I'm sure there will be mistakes that were made that will be reported, as well as the successes of some of the programme. You mentioned about the effects of reduction of car use, car transport, and as a serial car user, I do sympathise. There are no plans to stop people using their cars, but we do need to, in my opinion, we do need as a society to reduce the harms done by pollution coming out of tailpipes of cars. One possible solution is to use electric vehicles, but that may or may not be a proper solution that works long term, I don't know. But as far as I know, nobody's stopping anybody, certainly in West Suffolk, driving anywhere where they want to, within the usual rules. And your final point about restricting the 99% when the 1% gets to use private jets, well, I agree with you. I think it's shameful that some people use private jets to make it easy to use public transport or a much cheaper form of transport. Thank you very much for bringing that to our attention, and I look forward to hearing from you again. Thank you. And now we have to London, please.
Hello everyone, can you hear me? Yes. I just have to make a comment, which is not on my question, but none of us spoke before we came here, and it's quite strange that we all have current similar themes going through our questions, so I shall read mine now. As a fairly new cabinet, you have an opportunity to collaborate with interested members of the community you were elected to serve in a different way. These days, it seems councils are being given larger and more important remits that will impact local residents far into the future and far longer than their elected four-year term. I was disheartened after my attendance at the last West Suffolk Council meeting at the way members of the public were treated. They came to speak about seriously important meetings, and I don't feel that they were seen, heard or treated with respect. Apart from a small minority of council members who took time to connect after the meeting. Important projects such as the West Suffolk Local Plan, the Environment and Climate Change Action Plan and the continued 5G rollout impact each and every one of us. So my question is, how are the Cabinet going to ensure that members of the community are included and involved in any ongoing consultations relating to these important projects, to ensure their opinions are heard and any concerns they might have are taken into account before final decisions are made? Thank you for listening.
Good girl.
Thanks very much, Jo. Thank you very much for presenting your question in advance, which gave me a chance to think through my answer. So I'd like to start by thanking you for raising what I think is a very important issue. The view of the new administration is that the current arrangements for interested speakers like yourselves to come to meetings open to the public are less than ideal. I personally recall asking a question 4 or 5 years ago myself before I was a councillor, so I know how potentially intimidating and daunting speaking one of these meetings can be. So congratulations to all three of you for not quailing at that. In answer to your question, the Constitution Review Group, which is one of the groups that works within the council, made up of councillors, will be asked to review the arrangements for public speakers. As you may know, our Constitution lays down these rules, which we are obliged to follow because they're in our Constitution, but we're now looking at amending them to make it more user-friendly, basically. If you'd like, and I very much welcome this, if you'd like to make a written submission that group can consider, perhaps saying what you would like to see, please do email that to me and I'll make sure it gets passed on. The next meeting of that group is the 13th of September. It's not open to the public, I'm afraid. It's a closed meeting. There are, however, already a number of ways to make your views known. The most important one of these is through your ward councillor. And I know you know that I think Councillor Hind is your ward councillor, along with Councillor Sayer, yes, sorry, Councillor Sayer. And I know that we've got 64 councillors in West Suffolk Council, and I know I can speak truthfully that each one of them welcomes any member of their residents to contact them about any issue they're interested in. So I would very much welcome you to do that. And if you're not sure of your councillors, contact details are all on the council website. We are also currently looking at ways that we can hold in-person councillor surgeries. At the moment, it's just at the discussion stage. As you can probably imagine, there are quite a few difficulties involved, not least organising a venue. But as I say, watch that, watch this space for that, and I think that will make it much easier to contact the councillor. As to the local plan, which you specifically mentioned, there was plenty of opportunity to comment and make submissions in the earlier stages. The revised plan, which is being worked through at the moment, will go out for public consultation in January, before being then submitted to the government for final approval. So again, you'll have an opportunity at that stage to...
Can I ask where that will be publicised and what the date in January will be?
Yes, June. Okay, yeah, it'll be on the web, so keep an eye on the West Suffolk Council website. Thank you. One final point I'll make to you: West Suffolk Council has wide responsibilities, but only in certain areas. So, for example, we're not responsible for potholes in roads, thank heavens. That's Suffolk County Council's job as the local highways authority. Equally, we are bound by the laws of the country. Although we can lobby to change them, at the end of the day, we have to abide by the law like everybody else. So, for example, the question of safety of 5G masts, is not something we as a council can make decisions about. We have to follow national guidelines. We can only make planning decisions about them based on criteria. And again, they're set down by central government, so there's a limit to how much discretion we have there. Once again, thank you very much for raising this question. I hope you will feel welcome to attend further meetings, and I hope this evening you've felt you've had your voices heard and you've been treated with respect. Thank you very much.